It's one of the biggest super funds in Australia with more than 450,000 members and about $30 billion in assets under management. But one of its key schemes is short of money. So more than 100,000 people now face the prospect of losing the income they thought would be guaranteed in retirement. Stephen Long's been investigating.
At universities across the country, just about everyone from the boffins to the backroom staff is in a super scheme called UniSuper.
Most of the people that work at universities are not high paid. There's cleaners, security guards, there's admin people, and they're not earning a lot of money. But one of the things that a university did provide was the promise of a decent pension at the end of their working life. Now it appears that that's gone up in smoke, and most of them didn't even know that it had happened.
University staff thought they were in a scheme that was generous, secure and certain, but that's no longer the case.
The fund, with its current funding levels, may not be able to make good on all the promises that it's made as they fall due over the next few decades as people retire.
It means that those people who've already retired, those who are about to retire, and those people who are still contributing a large amount of their income are going to get much, much less. And anyone who's been planning on a particular retirement outcome, they're going to be very, very sadly disappointed.
From the lecture hall to the maintenance room, one of the attractions of working at a university has been the superannuation. UniSuper offers its members what's known as a defined benefit. That's a set payment based on your salary, your age and your length of service. Unlike other schemes where what you get depends entirely on what's happening in the markets. Generally in these schemes, the employer has to pay the defined benefit, even if it means they have to make up any shortfall in the fund. But not in the case of UniSuper.
In most schemes, if it looks like the fund is nearing a point where it can't meet its benefits, the actuary and will advise the trustees that they need to increase the contribution rate, that they need to go to employers and say, we need more money to meet these benefits. In 2006, though, there were some negotiations that the trustee undertook, the result of which was that tie back to the employer was severed.
Until then, if the fund didn't have enough money to pay benefits, the trustee had to call upon each employer to provide such additional amounts as the trustee considers necessary. In 2006, that requirement to call on the employers to top up the fund was scrapped. It's a decision that intrigues legal academic Scott Donald, who's worked in the super industry and is finishing a doctorate on superannuation trust deeds.
What I think is interesting is that decision in 2006 that the trustee made. They have a responsibility to act in the best interests of members. They have to exercise their powers having regard to those interests.
Do you think that there may be a situation where the trustee has breached their duty to members?
It is possible that there's been a breach. It'll be very interesting to have a look at some of the reasoning as to why that decision was actually taken, because it is quite a surprising decision.
You would perhaps have to ask yourself how allowing the employer off the hook is actually in the best interest of members of a fund.
But the current chief executive of UniSuper says employers were never on the hook. The fine print always let them refuse to top up the fund.
During the 2006 period, as I understand it, certainly some universities made it very clear as an employer they would not top up the shortfall. Secondly, I need just to point out that under UniSuper's trust deed, all employers had to agree on topping up, not just a few and others not. You needed all of them to apply. So that being the case, Stephen, the trustee at the time, UniSuper, I think really needed to provide some greater clarity for their members. They could be seen to leave the clause unamended, could be seen to make it misleading for the members. It would give them hope that the employers were going to top up the additional contributions. Clearly wasn't the case.
There should have been mass meetings at every university. There should have been notification in bold about the potential significance of this change, and certainly a debate about whether or not it was warranted. But apparently it was passed, and it just got. There was a trickle of information at best, but I don't think the ordinary person would have any idea.
Dr Mike Rafferty recently became a Sydney University staff representative on UniSuper's consultative committee, and he was shocked to find out how little disclosure there was at the time.
This is all I've been able to find that was sent out to members. It's a document which basically runs through about 5 pages, talks about how the fund's in such a healthy financial position, it's got plenty of assets to meet liabilities. Down here it says that the trust deed's being amended to clarify what happens in the event of a shortfall, which is pretty vague. You've got to travel through a document where everything looks fine to the back page to find out that that clarification is that it's removed any requirement for employers to make any top-up should there be a shortfall in the fund.
Massive change buried right in the fine print.
Well, you can't get a bigger change to a defined benefit scheme, and you'd have to ask how could it be transacted at the back of a document like that?
The disclosures were fine. All members got a letter to explaining what had happened, and included in that letter was a document, additional information document, which sets out the changes.
UniSuper's CEO at the time, Anne Byrne, refused to be interviewed. A year after repealing the call on employers to top up the fund, her peers voted her Fund Executive of the Year. On the face of it, there's an inherent conflict in the way UniSuper's set up. Supposedly, its sole purpose is to meet the interests of its members, the employees, and yet it's the employers who are the fund's shareholders, its owners in effect, and they've got a financial incentive to reduce their liability.
Throughout this whole time, the trustees acted early, been responsible in informing members, and is continuing to focus solely on improving the long-term security of the health of the defined benefit fund for all its members.
The local share market's in the red, and
unless the markets recover, UniSuper will be cutting members' benefits in 2013. And even employees who've been retired for decades could have their pensions cut.
We have to act fairly and equitably, and so the benefit reductions have to be seen to be fair and equitable. They don't have to be the same, they have to be fair and equitable.
If you're approaching retirement and this comes in, I would imagine that there'll be a lot of people who'll just say, let's just grab whatever retirement package I can get out. And as people rush to the exits, just like in the banking system, there's going to be less and less money available.
There's more than 100,000 employees, past and present, for whom the bell tolls.